Now, primary sector leaders have launched a commendable initiative in Southland to avoid a repeat of last year's winter grazing controversy. Whatever side of the fence you sit on, it didn't look good. It wasn't good from an environmental or animal welfare point to see wet and miserable cattle wallowing in a sea of mud. We all know that. It's great to see a Lincoln University PhD student study funded wider beyond that with a 3-year Sustainable Farming Fund contract. And this was to investigate the use of catch crops to mitigate nitrate leaching. Peter Carey, the field scientist from Lincoln Agritech, joins us now. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, Sarah.
Hey,
nice to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the great work that you've been doing in this great space. Now, you've got some successful results on this farm management system that we're going to discuss, but I thought it would be quite good to get a bit of a background on how you were led into this particular interest.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I've been working in soil science, which is my kind of field, for a number of years. And a few years back, I decided to start a PhD. And one of the topics that was brought up and I thought would be quite interesting was to look at the use of catch crops, because we know under winter forage grazing, they're a relatively small area in the landscape, but they're quite a big emitters of nitrogen loss. So either through nitrate leaching or you can use nitrogen through greenhouse gases and things like that. So I thought it would be a great way of doing something very applied. And as it's turned out, we think that there's an environmental benefit, but also there's a very much a profitability benefit to the farmer as well. But it just involves using it in an efficient manner.
I do have to take you back a step. There are certain parts of our audience, probably a lot of them, that want to understand what the term catch crop actually means.
I agree, yeah. And look, catch crops aren't anything new. I think the Chinese used them about 4,000 years ago. And what they normally are is a crop that's inserted in between the end of a main crop and in between starting the new crop. And the idea is that over winter is that by putting a catch crop in, you capture all those nutrients that might be leached out of the soil, over the winter from rain and when the plants aren't growing. So the idea was to plant those traditionally in autumn, and they would carry over, and then you would either harvest them or maybe even just dig them into the ground, and then that breakdown of that material would add to the incoming crop that you sowed, and you would kind of preserve nutrients over the interim. But we're doing this a little bit differently because we're trying to put a catch crop in winter, in the middle of winter, and this is not something that would normally go against common sense, and certainly in places like Southland, people have tried it and said, it's no good at all. You can't do this. You can't get on the ground and that. But fortunately, we've been accessing a new piece of technology down there that's enabling us to get onto wet grounds. But we're doing this in Canterbury as well. And we found in Canterbury over the last few years, certainly conditions are dry enough that you can get a traditional cultivator onto the ground in July many times, and last 2 years we've managed to sow catch crops in July and early August, no problem at all.
So what type of varieties are best? Say, for instance,
we're mainly talking oats.
Yep.
Oats has been the best cereal that we found, mainly because it's very cold tolerant, so it'll germinate at 5 degrees or above, and so they get off to a bit of a slow start. So you think, well, they're not doing very much. But even when they're not doing very much, they're using their, transpiring water. So they reduce the water in the soil itself. So that also lowers the amount of water actually moving through the soil. But at the same time, they're also taking up some of that nitrogen that the cows have left there from when they've urinated all over the ground, and we find even a month or within a couple of months they've taken up maybe as much as 40 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare, and that's quite when you see how big the crop is, you think, it doesn't look like very much, but it's actually quite more than you might think.
And harvest or grazing this catch crop, was it really there as a ground cover?
No, we're harvesting. So I'll give you a couple of situations. The last 2 years, in 2018, we planted a catch crop in Horata, and we were and around Teparita Way, and after 5 months we got 10 and 12 tons respectively by November. So it is definitely worthwhile. That's going for green shop silage, and we're definitely it's the bottom line is certainly profitable. But we're finding that we're taking up maybe 140, 150 kilograms of nitrogen with no other nitrogen added. So, what you're actually doing is you're using nitrogen that you've already got, and that you might lose if you didn't use it. So, and when we say lose it, that's what's happening. Well, you're losing it in nitrate leaching or in denitrification. That's a natural process. But if you some of that denitrification ends up, I'm sorry, using technical terms here, but it can increase our climate greenhouse gases. So, reducing either of those is a good thing, but most importantly is putting that nitrogen into something productive for the farmer. So it's been quite nice to be able to show to farmers, look, we can, normally the environmental stuff, I think, oh, well, that's going to cost me money. Well, here's something that's not going to cost you money. It's going to make you money.
It seems like it's like irrigating your garden with your grey water. It's a nice circular.
It is circular. This is what it's about. It is circular. And that, that silage you make up, the green shop silage you make up, you can use that in the next winter as your, you bring it on as winter feed over that part of it when you're mixing with your, with your other fodder crops. Yeah.
I am going to show my naivety because I didn't do a degree here on the fine campus of Lincoln University, and I'm a student of life, Peter. But
that's right.
I have been very interested in this maize film. And
yes.
Maize silage, both obviously in colder conditions. Is that an option?
Probably not. Probably not, because we are finding that it's just not warm enough. Yeah, oats, is just able to get away that much earlier. If you try to plant maize in July, August, you're just not going to see anything until much later. So to be fair, we haven't tried it, but I'd be skeptical it would be a good fit. I mean, oats came from Scotland, and anything that can grow in Scotland, I think it will grow here, even in our winter. So, I think it's still the best option. But look, there are other crops you can try. You can try triticale if you want to go through it to a whole crop silage. A whole crop silage. It's probably a better bet than oats, and it's not much different. In terms of performance, it's probably slightly off oats. Oats is better from that green shop stage, but if you want to go through a whole crop cereal silage, then triticale could be a good option, and it's not a hell of a lot worse performance. Actually, one of the things I did want to point, I mentioned Southland before. What has enabled us to do work in Southland is that we've been using a new piece of tillage technology called a spader drill. And this is a marvelous machine that one of the local dairy farmers down there has imported from the Netherlands. And it is amazing to watch. It will go through a wet soil and turn it into a seedbed in one pass. It tills the soil, it harrows it, and then it drills the seed in one pass. Okay, not as fast as a conventional operation, but it's only one operation. It's a one pass thing, and because we've been able to get onto the ground at times of the year when you just can't get normal cultivators on there, we are picking up 8-9 tons of oats off those Southland paddocks by November.
Sounds
late November.
Very long.
What's that? The
spader drill, in terms of having all those implements throughout the whole process.
Well, it's a heavy thing. It is a heavy thing, and the farmers have found that, the farmer using it has found that, when you get to the end of a row, turning around can be a little bit more difficult, and he's going to he thinks he's going to put some tractor tracks on his tractor. But what it is that it's actually using the power takeoff shaft off the tractor, and that goes back to the spader, and the spader is actually pushing the tractor. The tractor is just steering, it's not pulling anything. It's the spader that is actually doing the work, and it pushes the tractor forward. So it is surprisingly good, and it's cultivating down to about 25 centimeters. And I'd have to show. If I showed you pictures, you probably wouldn't believe it. And the oats is definitely coming up a lot better than we can do with traditional, minimum tillage or, traditional cultivators. So it is. I'm hoping that we'll see more people look at, or more contractors look at bringing these machines in, because they are going to revolutionise, I think, putting catch crops into winter in Southland, because as you mentioned, we see some real quagmires there, and the sprader seems to be able to cope with them admirably well.
That's fantastic, Peter. Thank you so much for all the great work that you're doing. And I'd absolutely love to see that. But of course, with anything, Peter, in a commercial environment, it's all about the demand. So farmers, if you're wanting to get involved in catch crops, which I think is going to become the way that we do, and the pressures that's putting on us with farm environment plans, of course. Yeah. Peter, before you go, I want to tell you that Mary McCall-Smith is currently watching Sarah's Country from her hill farm in Scotland.
Right, okay.
So there you go. She'll know a thing or two about oats.
I would think so, yes. And Southland know a few things about oats too, but the home of oats in New Zealand,
and
really,
Swedes.
isn't it? But yes, and Swedes, that's right. I would just like to finish in saying, well, I encourage farmers to go and talk to their contractors now.
Yep.
Because once those paddocks start coming free in June, May, June onwards, really, getting a catch crop, and the key is to get it in as soon as possible, and you'll get the benefit.
If anyone wants to get in touch with Peter Carey, he's at Lincoln Agritech, and to find out more about that program, I wanted to run a bit longer there because Peter's got some seriously interesting information. I probably could talk to him for another half an hour, as well as the questions coming in for Peter as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us. That's Peter Carey, the field scientist on catch crops. He's done under his PhD and now under an SFF fund.
This is Sarah's Country.